What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel for another episode of the Ask Me Anything series. I do also want to shout out again, I know I did this in the last video, but I'll probably do this for at least the next few just until the channel gets a little bit of traction. But I do have a second channel now. Basically what that channel is for is just short form NHL content, things that I want to quickly give my thoughts on that don't really fit on this channel, don't fit the theme, maybe aren't worthy for a main channel video, however you want to say it. But that channel will be linked at the top of the description of this video and my videos moving forward. I actually did already post on that channel today, so if you're interested in that, please be sure to go and give that channel a sub and check out the most recent video. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode. The first question we have comes from Awesome Zach 1450, who says, could the Sabres legit make the playoffs this year, maybe beating out the Islanders or Penguins? The only thing they need to work on is the goaltending and defense, although Craig Anderson at age 41 is rocking a .920 save percentage. I actually do plan on making an entire video on the Sabres on the main channel here soon, because what an up and down season they've had so far. I remember, I think it was towards the end of October in an Ask Me Anything, somebody asked, are the Buffalo Sabres different this year? They feel different from the teams in years past where they're not just going to fizzle out after the first month, and I agreed. I did say that this year's Sabres team does feel different than the past couple of years, and then sure enough, November rolled around and they had their annual slump in the month of November. This year I believe they lost 8 games in a row. Everybody kind of completely wrote them off, and it was just another season of Buffalo giving their fans hope to start the season and then falling off a cliff in November. And although those things did happen, the Sabres gave their fans hope at the start of the season, fell off of the cliff in November, but this year is different because the Buffalo Sabres have been climbing back up that cliff and now find themselves right in the thick of the wildcard hunt. The Sabres are just 4 points back of the Pittsburgh Penguins for that second wildcard spot, but they have 2 games in hand, and listen, I'll say, I'm rooting for the Buffalo Sabres. I would love to see them get into the playoffs as one of those wildcard teams. In my opinion, this season they have been one of the most fun teams to watch in the league, at least with the exception of November. If not the Red Wings, which it doesn't look like that's going to happen, then I'm rooting for Buffalo. I want them to get into the playoffs, and I think they can. I don't think where they're at right now is a fluke. I mean, just imagine if they didn't go through that terrible month of November, where they would be at right now. This is a good team. Yeah, they have their flaws just like any other team in the league, but offensively especially, this team is just so much fun. They have so many guys that are thriving this year, having career years, and it just seems like this whole team just loves playing together. So I'm really excited to see how the second half of the season goes for Buffalo. Hopefully they can remain consistent, remain in that playoff hunt all year long, because Sabres fans deserve that. It's been, misery in that fan base for a very, very long time. So it would be nice to see them get in this year, and I think I can definitely say that I'm on the bandwagon this year. I'd love to see them get in. The next question we have comes from Hayden, who says, with the AllStar Weekend coming up, what are your thoughts on the whole event? What would you do to make players want to go and make it more enjoyable for the fans? Also really appreciate the support. I'll be honest, I'm kind of in the same boat as John Tortorella. I could care less about AllStar Weekend. I rarely watch. Maybe I'll tune in for a couple minutes here and there, but I just don't think it's entertaining. So those are my thoughts on the event, some things that I think they could do to make it better. Well, number one, I feel like the one representative from every team rule has to go. I know it does make sense in the sense that you want to have at least fans from every team care about a player in this event, but for me personally, like, if the Red Wings don't deserve to have an All-Star there, I don't want them to have an All-Star there. I think being an All-Star should be earned. I think it should be a nice achievement, a big accolade on someone's resume, kind of like it is in the NBA. Like, for an example, sometimes when there's Hall of Fame debates regarding NBA players, things that are brought up a lot is like, oh, this player's a 7-time All-Star, this player's a 5-time All-Star. When it comes to NHL players, we could really care less. It doesn't matter. I could not tell you how many All-Star games Crosby has been selected to, Ovechkin. I really don't know. So that's the first thing. Make that one from every team rule go away to make being selected to the All-Star team more prestigious and mean more. Like, Seth Jones is an All-Star this year, and I don't want to pile on. I know Seth Jones gets a lot of hate, but his play this year is not good enough to be selected to an All-Star team. I think it's just ridiculous. The skills competition as a whole, I think, is fine. I actually didn't mind last year's from the bits that I watched. Obviously, Zegras was really entertaining in the skills competition, so I think that aspect is fine. Not really much else you can do to make that event better, but in terms of the game itself, the 3-on-3, first off, going from 5-on-5 to 3-on-3 definitely was a big step in the right direction. To make the players care a little bit more, to make them try a little bit more, I think it would be cool to have some better incentives. I know there's the MVP, but I just think that there should be more at stake. I'm not sure what that would be, what you could do there. Just something, some kind of incentive to make the players selected to the All-Star teams actually want to go and attend, and then once they're there, put some effort in the games. Moving along now, this question comes from Gotham K, MK1001, who says, do you think with Michkov not having the opportunity to showcase his talent at the World Juniors drops his draft stock a bit more, and also really appreciate the support? I think it probably does, and it doesn't really have a ton to do with Michkov himself. It's probably just, you know, a couple of guys maybe jumped ahead of him due to their performances in the World Juniors. I really feel like Michkov has to be the most intriguing prospect heading into this draft, though, aside from Bedard, of course, who's intriguing just in the sense that he is unbelievable and is expected to be a generational talent. But I'm really interested to see what happens with Michkov and where he ends up going. Like, I honestly wouldn't be all that surprised to see him slide out of the top 5 when for so many years it was Bedard versus Michkov who's going to go first overall in 2023. Obviously, the biggest thing that's kind of putting a damper on his draft stock is the fact that he signed with SK St. Petersburg through 2005-26, so whatever team drafts him is going to have to wait at least 3 full seasons before adding him to their lineup. However, this is a player that I feel like is going to be well worth the wait. I think he's going to be a star at the NHL level, so I'm really interested to see what team is going to be okay with not really having anything to do with this prospect, you know, for 3 full seasons after drafting him. The next question we have comes from Machine Gun C1325, who says, what do you think about Karl Marchenko getting a hat trick against the Hurricanes in last night's game? He puts the team on his back, got most of our shots, all of our goals, and scored in the shootout. What is his potential? Also, really appreciate the support. That was definitely an unbelievable single game performance from Marchenko, who has quietly just been very good for Columbus since being called up. 16 games, 8 goals in those 16 games, and he's doing that in just about 12.5 minutes of ice time. He's got damn near a 30 shooting percentage right now. For being a 49th overall pick back in the 2018 draft, it's looking like Marchenko could end up being a steal, and I'm not just saying that because of the 16 game sample size we've saw from him so far at the NHL level, but the 16 games he played in the AHL to start the season too, he had 19 points in those games, and prior to coming over to North America before this season, his last couple years in the KHL were really productive as well. Between 2020-21 and 2021-22, in 80 games, he had 27 goals and 21 assists for 48 points. It looks like Columbus has a really good player here in Marchenko, and it's nice that it's happening now because obviously there isn't a lot to be excited about in regards to the Blue Jackets this season because of where they're at in the standings, all the injuries to the team. They're really not that competitive, so you got to take the wins where you can get them, and Karl Marchenko coming up and being as impactful as he has been is definitely a win. Moving on now, some more rookie talk here. This question comes from Hussey's Huddle, who says, what are your thoughts on Bergen's play so far with the Wings? In my opinion, he brings some much needed creativity to Detroit's lineup, and again, really appreciate the kind words. As a Red Wings fan, I've been incredibly happy with Bergen's play since being called up. This is a player that I really don't think should ever see an American Hockey League again. He is an NHL player, he makes the Red Wings better, and he shouldn't come out of the lineup if healthy, and I don't think he will either. It seems like Derek Lalonde has been really happy with Bergen's play as well. He started on the 4th line in the bottom 6, played the majority of his season in the bottom 6 so far, but he has been getting promoted as of late. He actually played on the 1st line with Larkin against the Maple Leafs in their most recent game. With Bertuzzi coming back from injury, I saw the practice lines this morning. Bertuzzi has taken his spot back on the 1st line, but the 2nd line, Bergen is playing with Rasmussen and Kopp, so he's getting an opportunity now to play up in the lineup, and I definitely agree with you. His creativity has been something that the Red Wings have needed. The lineup really lacks that, and something that really jumps out at me when watching Bergen is his patience, especially with a player of his age and his size. Like, oftentimes he'll be the first one in the zone with the puck and find himself in a situation where pretty much everybody else on the Red Wings, if they were in that situation, they would just dump the puck in, but Bergen stops up, kind of lets the play develop, lets his line mates catch up, buys them time, and oftentimes it leads to some really good zone time for the Red Wings and some chances that they wouldn't have gotten if Bergen would have just dumped the puck in or rushed the play. So I've just been blown away. I think he's been every bit as advertised and definitely well worth the wait because this is a guy who's, you know, just kind of having his first stint in the NHL after being drafted back in 2018. This next question comes from Jason, who says, thoughts on Travis Konechny this season? Has to be having one of the most underrated seasons in the NHL so far. He has 21 goals and 41 points in just 34 games at the time I'm writing this. I'm a Flyers fan, so I'm desperate for my team to get some recognition. We need it. The pain is real here in Philly. I knew Travis Konechny was having a good season, but I'll be honest, before reading this comment, I didn't know he was having that good of a season. 7 points over a point per game for Konechny is really impressive, especially considering, you know, he plays on a team like the Flyers, who are towards the bottom of the league in offense in terms of goals for per game. I like to think I'm pretty up to date with the NHL, pay close attention to a lot of things, so me not knowing Konechny was having that good of a season kind of backs up your statement that he is having an underrated year. To be honest though, we probably should have seen this coming, maybe not to this extent, but Konechny just embodies the player that would thrive under John Tortorella, because for as good as he's been this season offensively, Konechny's game has always been a little tenacious, get under the other team's skin. He's always sort of reminded me of a Brad Marchand light, always, with the antics and, just in terms of the play, he's a really good forechecker, relentless player, really hardworking. I'm interested to see what the Flyers decide to do with Konechny, because he's still relatively young, just 25 years old. I'm not sure how long Philadelphia thinks they'll be in a rebuilding position, but if they ever decide to move on from Travis Konechny, he's definitely boosted his trade value a lot with his play this season. The next question we have comes from Kaden, who says, upon his return to the WHL, Bedard put up 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points, 13 shots on goal. He now has 40 goals and 93 points in just 36 games this season, the equivalent of a 91 goal, 212 point pace across 80 games. Craig Button of TSN considers him a generational talent. Is he for real to be an NHL superstar? So I know a lot of you are probably sick about hearing Connor Bedard just because of how much talk there has been about him, with the World Juniors and everything, but yeah, his first game back after the juniors in the WHL, a casual 4-goal, 6-point game with 13 shots on goal. Going from playing in the World Juniors to, the best of the best to the WHL, probably felt like he was playing in beer league, honestly. But to answer your question, yeah, I agree with Craig Button. I think he's a generational talent. I think he is for sure to be a superstar at the NHL level. Like, when was the last time we saw a prospect really dominate to this extent at every single level, including the World Juniors? Just had the best World Juniors performance maybe ever. Apparently there's some rumors about Bedard potentially being traded by the Regina Pats. If that happens, I can't even imagine what the return is going to look like for them, because I actually just made a video on the second channel about the Owen Zellweger trade, which I genuinely thought was one of the most insane trades I've ever seen in any hockey league ever. So if you haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. It's just quick. It's like 2 minutes. But after seeing that trade and now, hearing about Connor Bedard potentially be trading again, I just cannot even imagine what that trade would look like. The next question we have comes from Caleb Green, who says, thoughts on the 3-on-3 in IIHF overtime? Loved to see Canada win, but do you think it should be 5-on-5 in elimination games? I'm going to be completely honest here, might be a little bit of a controversial take, but I actually like the 3-on-3 overtime in elimination games in the World Juniors. One thing it's done, since it's 20 minutes long, it has literally eliminated shootouts from determining who wins a gold medal. That should never determine the outcome of a medal game. And now I kind of just associate crazy 3-on-3 overtime moments with the World Juniors in those medal rounds. Like, we just saw the last 2 gold medal games end on a 3-on-3 overtime golden goal. Both times it was Canada, obviously. But yeah, I really like it. I know it's not the traditional 5-on-5, like I wouldn't want to see the NHL do this, but for, the World Juniors, 1 tournament a year, I really like it. And now for the final question of this video, this one comes from 86 Hockey Breaks and More, who says, the Wings are approaching a point in the season where they need to either push for a wildcard spot or tank for Bedard. Which route should they go and why? Also, really appreciate the support. I don't think you're wrong in saying this. They're definitely at a point where you kind of got to choose a direction, but I really don't think there's one thing Detroit could do either way to really lock in one outcome or the other. For an example, I don't think there's a move Detroit could go and make that would cement them as a playoff team. I just don't think a realistic move, at least, and I don't really think there's a way they could make this current roster bad enough to get, the best odds at Connor Bedard. And even if you finish last place in the league, that doesn't mean you're going to get the first overall pick, and if they gutted the roster just to do that and then not get Bedard, it would be a pretty big setback, obviously. So I feel like Detroit's probably just going to ride this season out. Maybe we see them make a couple small moves at the trade deadline, maybe move a guy like Oli Mata, who's on a 1-year deal and performing really well this year. They have some other pending UFAs like Pius Suter, Adam Ernie, Oscar Sundqvist, guys that could get some interest around the league, but I really don't expect Detroit to make a big move like trade Dylan Larkin in the final year of his deal. Maybe we see something like that with Bertuzzi, but even still, trading away Bertuzzi I don't think makes the Red Wings Bedard contenders, because they really haven't had Bertuzzi much this year anyways. So that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Ask Me Anything series. Like I always say, huge shout out to all of you guys who took the time to come up with a question and leave it on the post. Even the ones that don't get featured in the video, just know I read them all and I appreciate every single one of you guys. You make this series so much fun for me to do. Also, like I said at the beginning, if you could, please be sure to go ahead and check out my second channel. This is definitely something that I feel passionate about, and I really want to grow this channel and have it on par with this one, maybe one day. So of course, the link to that will be at the top of the description. And if you guys enjoyed this Ask Me Anything, you want to see another episode next week, then be sure to drop this video a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out this channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all soon.